computer. There you go. And oh, it's 10:01. All right, so Miss Barbara knows the secret because Miss Barbara called me a while ago, but I told her we would be doing seated Tai Chi today. I have done something to my foot. Admit. So I can't transfer weight properly. All right. So let me see if I can get my camera right. I have my computer lowered a little bit. There's Linda. So maybe once I sit down, y'all can tell me if that's a good view. Yeah, I think that'll work pretty good. It looks kind of funny. It looks like my legs are really, really long. All right. So I'm still waiting on a couple of people to turn in their registration and waiver form. If you have sent it to me, you should already have your prize. It should have already been there. If not, I don't know what happened. You know how the mail goes. There's Miss Iris. All right. So, Miss Barbara, did you put yours in the mail?
Yes, ma'am. Saturday.
Okay. Well, you know,
Yes,
sometimes it's kind of slow, so we won't worry about. We'll just be patient, and it'll eventually come. Got prize. Okay, good. Whew, my eyes are good. My foot might be broke, but my eyes are good. So, sometimes, and I will swear this, sometimes I think God does things to my body so that I have empathy for the people that I work with. What do I mean by that? All right, so I've always been... Sharita. I've always been the young one, right? So when I started this job, I was 23 years old, and you know, I work at the area agency on aging. So typically I work with people that are over 65 years old, so older than me, right? Now, I'm 47 now, so I'm encroaching on the same age as y'all, but I'm still typically the young one in the programs that I provide. So, you know, if I'm going to come here and talk to you about pain from arthritis and, you know, some days you're going to have pain and you're still going to have to kind of push through, that there are things that you can't push through. Sometimes you got to let your body rest. But sometimes you kind of keep going even within pain. And so those are words that I say, but I don't always really understand it because I don't have a lot of pain. So every now and again, I think God says, all right, sis, I'm going to give you this little pain, and you're going to see what the people that you work with work through when you're telling them. Push through in those times whenever you're having pain. Do more on the days that you feel the best. Maybe y'all are following me on this, but I know sometimes I've had pain in my back. There have been pain in my hands. Sunday night, I sat down after, you know, cleaning the house all day, or not all day, but cleaning the house. I sat down and I was like, my feet hurt. You know, of course, being up on your feet all day, you get tired. But then I thought, no, my foot hurts. And so I can barely walk on my foot. And I didn't even do anything. Can y'all relate to that? Can y'all relate to having pain and nothing happened? Like you thought for sure I tripped and fell. for sure something happened. Where was I whenever that happened? Where did this pain come from? And I think that's something that happens as we get older, is we have these almost mystery pains, don't we? So I have a mystery foot pain, and it is forcing me to teach Tai Chi seated. So you don't have to stay seated. You can stay standing. I will still guide you through standing Tai Chi, just like when I do standing Tai Chi, I guide seated Tai Chi. And I did this yesterday, and it challenged my brain. You know, we talk about cross-lateral movement and how that challenges our brain, so Tai Chi is good for us. Well, doing things in a different way challenges our brain, and that's good for us. For instance, like if you brush your teeth with your right hand, try brushing your teeth with your left hand. It messes your brain all up, and that's good for you. It challenges your brain. So sometimes we do things differently to challenge our brain, just to challenge our brain. And so, it got me messed up yesterday. So I'm going to try it again today doing seated Tai Chi, and maybe by the time my foot gets better, then I will have gotten really good at challenging my brain. So we know when we do our Tai Chi, we warm up our bodies by walking around, opening and closing our hands, bending our elbows. Now, if you're seated, you're still going to want to follow principles of body structure where you are upright. So I'm scooted up into the chair, not so far where my chair's going to flip, but scooted up far enough to where my feet are touching the ground. I have that good posture, no tension. So even seated, we follow principle. Now I'm barely picking up my feet off the floor. And so if I were to take bigger steps, that would really be challenging for my hips. Because imagine if I were standing up and taking my knees that high. That would be very challenging. So it's similar when we sit down. So if lifting your knee too high is too much, then don't pick your feet up off the floor. Tap your foot one at a time, or both at the time. Or tap your heel, or go heel toe. You know, just the point is to get blood flowing, to get our bodies warmed up and ready for exercise, so that we lessen our chance of injury. So even seated, we can march in place. You can step out, step in, bring your feet forward and back as you get that blood flowing. Now, I think seated Tai Chi is more challenging and difficult than standing Tai Chi. I feel like it wears my legs out a lot more than in standing Tai Chi. All right, so let's get to our warm-up movements, where we have 2 for our neck, shoulders, spine, hip, knees, and ankles. Now specifically the lower body movements, they do look different when seated. So follow me on that, and I will remind you what the standing Tai Chi is if you're doing standing. So we're going to start with our neck. Remember our stable stance. See, I've scooted back up in my chair. My feet are grounded. My feet are still shoulder width apart. I'm sitting straight up. I have that good upright posture. My hands are going to go to my side. I'm going to bring my hands up, palms down. Turn and bring them towards my chin and chest. Turn and push them away from me, and follow those hands all the way down, chin to chest. Slow, smooth, and continuous. Again, that's our principle. I'm not locking my elbow joints as I push my hands out. So we still follow principle even seated. So as much as I wish my foot wasn't hurting today, I'm glad for the opportunity to do seated Tai Chi for you on those days whenever you may need to take a different method of doing Tai Chi, whether you have limited space or maybe you have a hurt foot. But one thing about this Tai Chi form is that it is modifiable for what your needs are. So our other neck exercise, we drop one hand to our hip or down here in my lap. I turn my head, follow it as I look towards my shoulder, switch my hands, turn, back to center. Don't forget to breathe. I don't think I mentioned breathing. You still got to breathe if you're seated. So even though I'm not using my feet and my legs, they're engaged. So today is our day that we're going to start learning waving hands in clouds. And again, it may be a good thing that I'm seated so we can practice that upper body movement more. Now, you know we won't have class next week. I'll be at a conference in Savannah. I'm actually doing a program on teaching Tai Chi on the Claris. So we'll pick it up in 2 weeks. And if my foot's not better by then, I'm going to look into getting it chopped off and get one of those fake foots put on. But in 2 weeks, hopefully we can really work on that, the footwork of waving hands in clouds. All right, for our shoulders, our hands are to our sides and we're going to roll forward. Maybe kind of hard to see my shirt. It being kind of the same color as the wall, but we're rolling our shoulders forward. Small circles, size of a quarter. And then roll those shoulders back. Easy warm-up movements of that shoulder joint. Continuing to breathe. Now big shoulder circle where we bring our hands up, palms up, and then turn and push those hands down. Great time to practice breath. Inhale as you bring those hands up. Turn and exhale as you push those hands down. Now let's get our ball. We're going to stretch our spine. The hand that's on top of our ball pushes down towards the ground. And the hand on the bottom of our ball follows our spine up, turns, and pushes up. Remember, keeping those elbows bent. It's not an arm stretch, it's a back or spine stretch. So we don't need to straighten our arms. Come back to the ball and switch. Now, if you have mobility issues with your shoulder, you can stay small. You can stay here, and you can have that stretchy string where you're imagining that back stretch, and you should feel that back stretch. Come back and switch and stretch that other way. So that's an option if you have that any kind of mobility problems with your shoulder, which often happens as we get older. Sometimes it's an injury, sometimes it's like, well, I guess that part decided not to work anymore. From what I understand, hormones may have a play in that, and I wish I were real smart sometimes so I understood everything our body does or doesn't do. Because I would love to fully understand. Oh, I got to tell y'all something. So, anytime my kids have ever had a problem, you know, if they have a headache, anything that bothers them, my first question is always to them, how much water have you drank? Okay, because I think drinking water is like the answer to so many things. It's like the easy answer, right? So I sent my family pictures of my foot today to show them it was swollen, and I was like, y'all, this doesn't work for my life. My foot hurts, like fix it. You know what my son said? Drink some water.
We got you good. Yeah.
I said, good one. I'm serious. All right, on that note, drink water. All right, so that stretched our spine vertically. Now we're going to stretch it horizontally. So we still have our ball. And we're going to take the ball. We're going to go in the direction of the hand that's on top. I'm going to turn just my torso, stopping at this leg, at the thigh. Switch my hands and then come back across, stopping at the other thigh. Now, this is a really good movement to do seated. So even if you're able to do standing Tai Chi, practice this movement seated because it really gives you a parameter. It really helps you stay within your frame. Because if I start going a little too far, then I feel my hip, my butt pull off of that chair. And that tells me that I'm going too far. And so that is a telling sign, and it's harder to tell when you're standing if you may be pushing it a little too far. So it really is a small movement side to side, stopping just above that knee or right at that thigh. The hand on top tells you the direction you're turning. And I want you to remember this right here when we do our waving hands in clouds, because this is the exact movement of waving hands in clouds. It's a torso movement. We move in the direction that is on top. So that's all of our warm-up movements prepare us for our Tai Chi movements. And so that's another reason why we take warm-ups so seriously and we do them every time. We don't skip them, and we really get a good feel for those movements because they really help get us prepared for our Tai Chi movements. All right, so those are our upper body ones. So you remember I have told y'all before, if you have hard time with stamina or holding out standing for a long time, to start our warm-ups seated. because those first three, the neck, shoulders, and spine, they don't have leg movements. So it's a good opportunity to just stay seated, warm up those parts, then have a seat, and you can do your lower body movements seated. So that was a good example of that. Now we're going to go to our lower body movements, and what I want to say about that is, yes, it can be done seated. It's a great start, especially if you do have problems with stamina, holding out, minimal leg strength, worry about falling. You feel more comfortable from a seated position. So there's nothing wrong with doing the Tai Chi from a seated position. There's everything right about it because you're doing something. Some people do nothing. Doing something is always going to be positive. Doing our Tai Chi any way you can. So you can do it seated, and there are different ways of doing it seated. You can also stand and hold your chair and skip the upper body movements, but do the lower body movements, since in this instance, it is to warm up the lower body. So that's kind of that next level, is standing up, relying on your chair for balance, skipping the hand movements, and just doing the lower body movements. And then ultimately would be standing, even if you had your chair nearby just in case, but to fully rely on your lower body muscles to support you as you transition weight from one foot to the other. So it's kind of a leveling up based on your ability. So there's no shame for doing Tai Chi seated, but I honestly see it as a building block. This is where we start, and we start engaging muscle by pushing our feet into the floor and start getting those muscles stronger, and then try it from a standing position, holding on to the chair. Even if we transition weight but don't lift the opposite foot off the floor, gradually work yourself and your strength up to be able to do it fully standing, at least some of it. So be willing to challenge yourself to get better. All right, so hips. Now, this hip movement, when we have done it standing, we of course have our good posture, our weight on both legs. We shift weight to one leg. So if I'm seated, I'm going to push my foot into the floor as if I were shifting weight to one leg. So whichever leg you want to push into the floor. The opposite leg, you're going to put your heel out. So if you're standing, your heel is forward and our hands go back. Now, if you're standing, you're going to come back to the middle, and then you're going to put your toe back at an angle like a kickstand with your hands forward. But if you're seated, you're not going to put your toe back here with your hands forward. You see, I'm kind of going towards falling out of my chair, so that's not a good position to be in. So seated, we do heel forward, hands back, and then come back to our seated position. You can even raise your arms forward. And then shift the weight or push the weight to the other leg. Heel forward, hands back. Pause in the middle, and then you can put your hands forward. Now, standing, the way we do it is we keep our weight on one leg while we heel forward, pause in the middle, toe back like a kickstand. And we do that 3 times in a row. Well, that's very challenging for that one leg that you're holding weight on. And challenge means strength. Challenge means growth. So we like a challenge, but another way you can do that movement is how we do it seated, is practice more weight transfer, which when we practice more weight transfer, we're using muscle in a different way. Shifting the weight. So we're transferring weight more often when we do one at the time. So shift the weight. So whichever way you want to do it, seated or standing. If you want to do I call them leg swings. If you want to do 3 leg swings in a row, fine. Or if you want to do one on one side and go to the other side, whichever one you want to choose. So I'm going to do the seated version where I shift weight or push one foot into the floor while I put my heel forward, hands back, come back to seated position, and my hands up. Push the other foot into the floor. Heel forward, hands back. Come to seated position, hands forward. Push weight, heel forward, hands back. Back to seated, hands forward. So pushing that foot into the floor allows you to utilize muscle, but it's also a stabilizer. As if you were walking with a cane, and that just kind of helps you be more stable. That foot in the floor is like your cane while you move this other foot. So you can try it both ways. Push that foot into the floor while you move the other one, and then try not pushing it into the floor while you move the other. Do you feel a difference? Because to me, it's harder to move that leg when you're not pushing this foot into the floor. So try it and see what a difference it makes to make you a stabilizer out of a leg. You're in charge of how much pressure you use when pushing your foot into the floor. Now this foot is hurting me, so I'm really not pushing it very hard into the floor. I'm more engaging my thigh muscle and my gluteus than I am pushing it into the floor because my foot hurts. This one I can do a little bit more freely because this foot doesn't hurt. So we acknowledge whatever problem that we're having with our bodies, and we work with it and do the best that we can. We don't give up on all the rest of it just because one little part is hurting. So we work with what hurts. We make modifications for our needs, but we keep going. All right, so lesson there, right? So I didn't cancel class because my foot hurts, because I can't do Tai Chi like I want to do Tai Chi. I show you by example that this program is modifiable. And that's why I say God gives me pains so that I can have empathy and then I can be a better teacher for it. So I'm going to complain because I don't like it, but I'm not going to complain because it's helpful for me to do a good job. All right, so that is our first hip exercise. The next one is where we stack our hands. We take them to the side. Remember, we stay in our frame. This is another instance where when we're seated, it's easy to see that we stop at our frame, because if we try to go further, you see, I was leaning, almost falling out of my chair when I went any further than my frame. So I'm really stopping right here at the edge of my frame, and the direction of my hands is in the direction of the weight shift. So I'd be shifting weight to one leg and then tapping that foot out. And when I'm seated, of course, I'm pushing that foot into the floor, that my hand is going in that direction, then releasing it as I switch my hands, and pushing that other foot into the floor, tapping out. Now this right here, shift, tapping out, I can do that okay. That doesn't bother my hips too bad. Some days my hips want to pop out of place, and that might not be a good movement for me. So another modification is this. So I take that hand to this side, pushing this foot into the floor, and instead of tapping that foot out, what I do is lay that knee to the side. And when you lay that knee to the side, you should really feel a stretch in that hip flexor. I mean, the beauty of it is you're in charge of how far to lay that knee to the side. I'm pretty flexible. So you don't want to match my movement exactly because your body is different. So you lay that knee until you feel that slight stretch in your hip flexor. Bring it up, and then now we go to the other side. There. There. So however you're doing it, if you're doing it standing, shift weight, tap foot out. If you're doing it seated, shift weight or push foot to the floor, step out. Or if you're doing shift weight, lay that knee to stretch that hip flexor. So this is just to show you how our movements seated are different than they are standing. But you can still warm up all of your major joints from a seated position. All right, next our knees. We have our loose fist. Take some deep breaths. Now I'm throwing a lot of information at y'all because it is new and different. Now we're going to do our knees. And so if you're standing, then you're going to shift weight to one leg. You're going to lift and tap a toe out and punch opposite hand. Bring it back. Shift to the other side. Lift, tap and punch. And so seated works pretty much the same way. So we lift, we take our toe out, kind of putting that leg out there with the toe kind of pointed. Now, I'll say this. I'm seated at the edge of my chair. So in order to do that movement, I have to really use the strength of my muscles to lift that leg and point it out. You might not have that strength. So what you can do is scoot back in your chair enough to where the chair is supporting your thigh. So not so far that you're just leaned back in your chair in the comfort zone. No, we still want to have that upright posture, but we can let the chair support the top part of our leg so that when we lift that foot out, then we don't have to support that whole leg. And so play around with that. Y'all tell me if your knees sound like potato chips. Mine sound like potato chips. If you're standing, you're shifting weight, lift, tap and punch, tapping that toe out in the air. But this is to warm up those knees. All right. The other knee exercise is where we step out, we shift weight to that front foot, keeping both feet flat on the floor, and we punch with the opposite hand or opposite foot that stepped out. That's the standing version. All right. But when you're seated, you're not going to step out and shift forward because you'll end up in the floor. So the seated version of this, same thing I said before. decide where you need your legs to be supported. So if you don't have as much leg strength, or even if you have the leg strength but you want to conserve your energy, sit back and let the chair support your leg, or scoot up and use more strength. But what we do is shift weight or push weight into the floor. We lift the foot, and instead of putting the toe forward, we put the heel forward, and we punch the opposite hand. Okay, so I'm really strong, but I like being in this chair and scooting back and letting the chair support my leg. So again, no shame in doing whatever you need to do. All right, so shift, lift, about said tap and punch. But if you're standing, you're stepping forward, shifting weight, coming back, shift, step, shift, and back. So my words are for the standing, my motions are for the seated. God, I think I get a star for that. I'm having to close my eyes, though, to imagine it.
You're doing good.
Thank you. I've done Tai Chi
from what we just did, Jennifer.
But yesterday I was a mess because I was trying to do commencement, and I couldn't remember when you stepped forward in comparison to what your hands were doing. I'm like, really? For this many years I've taught Tai Chi, and I couldn't, but I'm doing better today.
You look like the rest of us.
Huh?
I said, you look like the rest of us.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
All right. So those are for our knees. Last is for our ankles. If you're standing, you know there's no hand movements. You'll go shift a weight to one leg, and you'll do heel, toe, heel, toe. Now that toe is kind of an awkward position if you're seated, so you have the luxury of just putting your foot in the air. You know, if you're standing, you really don't. So if you're seated, you can do heel, toe right there in the air. Heel, toe. And then if you're standing, you know, our next one is big toe, little toe. And if you're seated, again, that's an awkward position to do that on the floor. So you can do it all in the air. Just turn your foot from side to side. Big toe, little toe. Little toe, big toe. That foot's not working like it should. But maybe by moving it, it's going to get all that blood flowing, and that blood is going to help heal whatever its problem is. If you're seated, you can do two at the time. You can roll your feet in circles. So that's something that you can do if you find yourself seated for long periods of time. Just moving those ankle joints, keeping those ankle joints flexible and mobile, reducing any tension that you're holding in your ankles, and that can help keep you from falling. You know, we take our ankles for granted, but keeping them loose and mobile is a good thing. All right. Oh, give yourself a shake. We did good through that. Our warm-up movements, whether you're standing or seated, you know, those are all the different ways. So this would be a great video to go through to look and see about seated Tai Chi. Warm-up specifically. So now let's talk about commencement. So I am going to be facing y'all. And so when we do commencement, it's a step forward. So we shift our weight to our right leg, which I'll do mirror image. Shift weight to my right leg. I step left. I shift left. I bring that right foot forward. And then open, close. So for our second movement. But commencement footwork is a step forward. Again, shift right, step left, shift left, bring the right foot forward, and then that's the footwork for commencement. If you're seated, you're not stepping forward because you'll step out of your chair. So instead, here are your options. You can push weight into the floor. So when I say shift right, I'm going to push my right foot into the floor. And then when I shift left, I push my left foot into the floor, releasing my right. And then I release both for open and close. So that's an option, to push weight into the floor on the foot that would have the weight transfer. That's an option. I find that very hard and confusing to do. You may think that's the greatest, best thing ever to do, and that's fine, because that's how my instructor does it. She shifts the weight. She pushes the foot into the floor when she shifts weight. I like to do just kind of like a pulsing motion of my feet as I go through the hands when I'm seated. So for instance, I push my right foot into the floor, then release it, push my left foot into the floor. So there's not really a certain time or match up with the upper body movement that I push, release, and push. I'm just constantly pulsing my legs as my upper body does the same motions that you would do as a standing Tai Chi person. You get a lot of engagement of leg muscles when you pulse your legs that way. So I'm pushing one, releasing one, pushing one, releasing one. Just almost like I'm walking in place without really picking my feet up off the floor. I'm pushing weight, releasing, pushing weight, releasing. Another option is to do nothing with your legs. To simply engage them to the floor. So I have my upright posture, my feet are to the floor, and then I'm going to go through the hand movements of Tai Chi, and it'll be like I don't even have legs, like I've chopped them off. They don't even exist. So that's an option as well. And so you can start one way, and then you can give yourself a break. I feel like something starts to naturally happen. And I think the reason why it starts to naturally happen is because what we talked about in warm-ups was where when we push that foot into the floor to do like that hip movement, and it became like our cane, like our little crutch, that stabilizer. I think we naturally push a foot into the floor when we do certain movements to help stabilize us. And I think it just comes naturally. Like you don't have to overthink it. But we want to engage muscle when possible. So you decide how you want to handle that. I won't be stepping out of my chair because that makes zero sense. I'm not trying to fall out my chair. So standing, shift right, step left or place left because it's an empty step. Shift left, right foot forward. Hand work. Okay, so hand work for all of us, whether you're standing or seated, our hands start to our sides. We're going to raise our hands up facing each other and then bring them down. Pull them towards our hips. Bring our hands up, out, back in. Hands, our fingers point up for our second movement, open and close. So remember the wrist movement we talked about last week where we can engage our wrists. We bring our hands up, down, shift right, and place the left foot up, out, hands come in and up, shift left as they go out, right foot forward, bring those hands up, in, open, close. So my words were telling you that we're standing what to do. So if you're seated and you're like, what are you talking about? You're not even moving your legs. No, I'm not. I'm not even pushing my feet into the floor. So I got bring my hands up, down, shift right. Bring my hand, down, shift right. Place left. Hands come in and up. Shift left as my hands go out. Right foot forward. Hands come back. Open and close. Does that seem funny for me to say that and not be doing it? I had to close my eyes and envision me doing it. You know, I've talked to y'all about that. How Dr. Lamb says if you can't do it, imagine that you are doing it. And there's something magical about our minds that it starts happening. And just thinking about it, our minds are so powerful. So again, commencement, we bring hands up, down, shift right, place left, hands come in and up, shift left as those hands go out, right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. So that time I was pushing my feet into the floor. Wasn't really thinking about it, but I come up, down. When I said shift right, I pushed my right foot into the floor. When I said place left, I kept the weight here on my right foot. I came in and then I said shift left. So I pushed my left foot into the floor. And when I came back, when I said right foot forward, I released both legs for open and close. Maybe that makes sense. But I pushed and held it until it was time to shift left. And I pushed left and held it. And then whenever I was getting ready to do open and close, I released and had no feet pushed into the floor. So that kind of what naturally works for me is to push and hold. Or I can go hands up, down, push, and then my hands are going to switch. My hands are coming in. So with that switch, push the other foot. With the switch of my hand, the other foot. With the switch of my hand, the other foot. With the switch of my hand, my other foot, and then let them both relax for open and close. So doing it that way with each direction change of my hands, I switched my feet, and that gives you more with the push and the engagement of legs. The other, where you hold it, that helps with the stamina, holding weight there. Just like when we do our standing Tai Chi and we're holding weight on one leg for a long time. Any questions about that? Because I don't want to confuse y'all. I'm afraid I am, just because I can't stand up and demonstrate standing Tai Chi today. It's also hard to see me pushing feet into the floor. You know, you can see it if I step. You know, you physically can see me shifting weight so that I can step. Obviously, this foot has all the weight, or else I couldn't step with the other foot. But it's harder for you to see me push. And so I'm trying to verbalize as much as possible so you can think and try different things and say, hey, what works best for me? And it may be that you don't physically push your foot or, you know, engage the muscle, but you keep your feet grounded. So just being in the position of an upright posture, utilizing your core muscles to stay upright, then you're using muscle. even if you're not pushing weight. So don't think you're not doing anything just because you're not pushing weight into the floor. All right, so again, commencement, open and close, however which way you want to do it. Commence. Open, close. Single whip. So single whip, the first one, we shift left and we step our right foot forward in a staggered stance. Our hands are here at open and close. So when we step our right foot forward into a staggered stance, we don't have immediate weight on that right foot. It isn't until we push our hands out that we give weight to that right foot. We still have weight on our left foot, on our back foot. We just even out or adjust the weight as we push that hand out. Then we turn our hands away from us and separate, and our eyes follow the opposite hand of the foot that stepped out. So if my right foot stepped out, I'm following my left hand. And y'all, I'm not doing mirror image because my freak is freaked enough and I just can't do it. So just listen to my words. If you follow my actions and you're doing right instead of left or vice versa, it's okay. We'll do it to the opposite way in a minute. So we have the end of open and close. We have our first single whip where we shift left, step out right into a staggered stance, adjust weight as we push our hands out, turn, separate, eyes follow our left hand, opposite of the foot that stepped out. So that's our single whip. Well, let's add it to the top. Commence up, down, in, up, out, back in, open, close. Single whip, push, turn, separate, eyes follow that left hand. How's that? Let's do it one more time and then we're gonna do our other single whip even though it's not technically next. Commence, up, down, in, up, out, back in, open, close. Single whip, push, turn, separate, eyes follow that left hand. So I gave some time for what was happening with your legs if you're standing, where you shift left, stepped out right, and then your hands came out as you adjusted that weight. So I tried to leave you time for those standing to do what you needed to do. All right, for the opposite single whip, it's just the opposite. Instead of shifting left, stepping out right, it's shifting right, stepping out left into a staggered stance, push, turn, separate, eyes follow your right hand because it would be opposite of the foot that stepped out. So 2 single whips, even though they don't go right after another, they're done opposite. Questions about single whip? There's video proof for Patrick that I'm drinking my water, so I'll have to send that to him when class is over. Patrick's my son, if y'all were thinking who the heck's Patrick. Is the one who told me to drink water to fix my foot. Alright, no questions on single whip. Next movement is waving hands in clouds. And this is the movement that I was telling y'all will take us a few weeks. Alright, so let me get up. It's 10:55. This right here, this is gold for waving hands in clouds. This is step, switch, turn, shift. These are our instructions of waving hands in clouds. So where you took notes on your principles, add these words for our waving hands in clouds. Step, that's our foot movement. Switch, that's a hand movement. Turn is a hand movement. And shift is a foot movement. So the little words beside these are step, empty. That reminds us to not immediately give weight to a foot. Switch, and that says changing hands. Turn or wave, because it's called waving hands in clouds. And then besides shift is weight. Okay, so step, empty, switch, which is changing hands, turn or wave, and then shift, weight. Okay, so that's the words that we will be working on in the next few weeks as we learn waving hands in clouds. And so last week we talked about Tai Chi walking forward, but also Tai Chi walking to the side. And so we can shift weight to one leg, step. I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to hurt myself. But shift to one leg, step the other. Step it outside of our hip width, shift, follow step. So essentially you're walking sideways. That's the step in the waving hands in clouds instruction. Then you shift to that leg you just stepped with, and then the step, shift, step, shift, step. So we're walking in one direction. We're taking 6 steps. So a step and a follow step, a step and a follow step, a step and a follow step. Okay, so this week again, or in the next couple weeks, I really want you to practice Tai Chi walking to the side. Empty step, shift, follow step, shift. So anytime you step, it's empty. Then you give weight to it so you can step the other foot. So you don't have to worry about 6 steps, even though that's what's in our Tai Chi movements. Walk until you hit a wall. And then Tai Chi walk until you hit the other wall. Practice the weight shift and get comfortable with spacing. Because if you step too far, you can't properly shift weight without pushing off. If your feet are too close together, then you're more likely to fall over when you go to shift weight. You got to widen your stance a little. So practice walking to the side. Tai Chi walking. What makes it Tai Chi walking? The empty step. Slow, smooth, and continuous movement. When you step, it's empty. You don't immediately give it weight like we normally walk. I don't know where the time went. All my yapping. Let me show you the upper body real quick, then we're going to cool down. Of waving hands in clouds. You remember the ball? So we went in the direction of the hand that's on top. All right? In waving hands in clouds, you have one hand by your hip and the other hand is cross-body. So which hand's on top? This one. What direction do we go? In the direction of the hand that's on top. And I'm going to turn just like I did in our spinal warm-up. Switch my hands and turn. So you see how similar that is to the spinal warm-up movement. So this is the handwork of waving hands in clouds. So one hand's engaged by our hip, the other hand's cross body like a sash. And then you open towards the direction of the hands on top. Then you switch. So you can go in the direction of the hand that's on top. So that gives you two different things to practice. Don't worry about putting them together. Practice Tai Chi walking. Practice seated waving hands in clouds. Switch, turn. So you know on the note you just took, switch and turn are your handwork, are your upper body. Switch, turn. Switch, turn. Your footwork, step, shift, step, shift. Okay? So take your notes, practice footwork, practice upper body. Okay? So that's getting us in the direction of learning waving hands in clouds. All right, let's cool down by giving ourselves a nice fist massage. Telling our legs, thank you for working so hard. And then we're going to create tension, gather tension. We don't want to live that way. Let it go. Let it go. Gather tension. Let it go. Gather and release. Gather and release. Big shoulder circle. One more. We take our right fist, sorry, mirror image. Our right fist represents our strength. Our left hands, our fingers all together represents our friendship. Strength, friendship. Our thumb in is our humility. And we put those together in mutual respect. We say, Namaste.
Namaste.
So sorry I went over time a little bit today. It's a lot talking about Tai Chi, seated Tai Chi, isn't it?
Yes.
But I hope it was helpful, and I hope that we don't have to do it again. If we need to, I'm happy to. But I think seated Tai Chi is hard.
You drink your water and get better.
I will. Thank you. All right, y'all. I will see you in 2 weeks, okay?
Okay.
All right. But I'll see you Friday, Sharita. Okay. Love y'all.
Love you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you.